Join host Charisma Eve on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and unapologetic authenticity. In each episode, Charisma dives deep into conversations, exploring what it truly means to embrace oneself fully and live life with genuine charisma. From personal antidotes to interviews, Unapologetically Me is a space where vulnerability meets strength, where listeners are encouraged to celebrate their uniqueness and step into their power without reservation. Tune in for inspiring stories, practical tips, and a dose of unfiltered wisdom as Charisma Eve guides you towards embracing your most authentic self. It's time to own your truth and live unapologetically. And now your host, Charisma Eve.
Welcome to Unapologetically Me. I am Charisma Eve. I hope that you are having a wonderfully blessed day. I know I am. And I am coming to you today. I want to talk to you about something that I think at some point in our family life actually affects us all, and that is addiction. It is very big these days, whether it's addiction from a medical point or whether it's addiction from a street point. Addiction from a standpoint period is something that we all deal with. And I wanted to share my own personal story. You know, it's amazing. I dealt with addiction at a very young age, and I'm very transparent about my life when it comes to this podcast, and I don't mind being transparent about anything. That's why I said if there's anything that you would like to ask questions about, please don't hesitate to ask, because I am more than happy to share my life about things that happen in my life. But I never used any hard drugs. But at 17, I started smoking marijuana. And, you know, people may say, man, she didn't do anything hard. But for me, that was, they say that's a gateway drug. And, you know, I started smoking pot, and I was still very much involved in the church. Like I've told you in previous episodes, my dad wasn't a minister, and I was still very much involved in going to church and very involved with the youth in my church. And, you know, I kept, you know, I stayed involved in my church life. But I had, as the people in church would say, I had one foot involved in church and one foot involved in the streets, you know. But I started smoking pot at 17, and I graduated from high school a year early. I graduated from high school at 17. And I smoked marijuana from the age of 17 until I was 32. And I was a heavy smoker. I smoked every day, all day, from the time I got up to the time I went to bed. And I didn't realize how heavy my addiction was until it was to the point where I realized that I would have to, when I would go to work, I would get up in the morning and I would have to smoke before I went to work. And I kept a joint in my car so that when I would have my lunch break, and at that time I was working in the salon, but I would have my lunch break and I would go smoke, and then I would go back to work. And when I started working and I was teaching, I would do the same thing. And I didn't see anything wrong with it at that time, but you go through life and you mature and you see these things and you look back and you go, wow. And I even had gotten so addicted that I remember at one point I was one Sunday, I would get up on Sunday morning at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I would smoke so that I would get it in my system. This was in the mentality I had in my brain, that I needed to smoke so that I would have it in my system, so that I would have that feeling before I went to church, because I felt like I needed to smoke before I went to church. And that was the feeling of addiction. And, I'm listening to what's going on with legalizing marijuana these days. And they've legalized it across the country. And I think that they're looking to legalize it in North Carolina now. And I've been clean for 20 plus years. I got clean through Narcotics Anonymous. And I remember um, one of my sisters telling me, because I have two of my sisters that experience harder drugs. They experience cocaine and crack. And they were like, oh, Andrea, you don't need to go to a 12-step program. You just smoke pot. But it depends on um, whatever your drug of choice is. And I felt like I needed to quit for two reasons. I felt like I needed to smoke all the time. I felt like I enjoyed smoking marijuana on a regular. But for me, and I'm a spiritual person, and you can't serve, this is for me. I felt like you can't serve two masters, you know, and I felt like I was serving the devil, which was I was smoking pot, which that to me was serving the devil. And I was trying to serve God. So I was trying to serve two masters. So I was like, Andrea, you got to make a choice. And I would struggle with that for years. And one of the sisters in the church that I served, um, she was going to Narcotics Anonymous, and she told me, she said, you can go with me to a meeting. And I went with her to a meeting, and I liked what they had to offer, because when I went to my church, that was for my spiritual delivery. But when I went to Narcotics Anonymous, that was for my practical delivery. And I listened to those 12 steps, and I practiced those 12 steps. And I remember my first meeting picking up a white chip. And that set me free. And I was able to get clean. And it was through those 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous that I was able to stop smoking marijuana. Um, you know, I listened to a lot of people. I just didn't want to be confounded to smoking marijuana until I was 60 and 70 and 80 years old. I look at people like Willie Nelson, that old man is 91 years old and he is still smoking marijuana. I mean, it's his choice. But I just didn't want that to be me. I didn't want to be sitting on the front porch, rocking in a rocking chair and still smoking pot. And it has come to this is 2024. And now you have people that are uh, in you know, people that are working in different types of jobs and things of that nature that are smoking marijuana. And why? It's because they can't quit. And we have opiate addiction. We have fentanyl addiction. I have a nephew whose uncle on his other side of the family died of a fentanyl and cocaine uh, overdose. And there's so many different types of addictions out here. I have to take, because of my illnesses that I deal with. I do have to take oxycodone, but it's monitored, and I do have a pain management doctor that I have to see once every 3 months. And I have to go and I have to get a pain management doctor. I have a pain management doctor, and then I have to have a drug test. They give me, I have this thing that I have to keep on my list of medicines in case I overdose. But I won't overdose because I take my medicines according to the way that they're given to me. But addiction is a big thing right now. And as I was thinking of what I could talk about tonight, addiction was something that came to my mind because it is a really big topic in the world that we live in today. And, you know, people, um, it's a choice. It is a choice. But then when you think about it, once you get really subdued into the world of addiction, it's hard for a person to get clean. And I feel blessed to have, first of all, known that I needed to get clean. Because when you know that you need to get clean and you make that decision, you have people around you that they may try to persuade you not to. And this is one of the reasons. One thing that you learn in Narcotics Anonymous is you learn about the company that you keep, and you learn about the triggers, and the things that trigger you to use and pick up, and how the life that how to live life without using, and what to do if you get a trigger, and when you're triggered, whether or not to pick up. I choose one day at a time and not to pick up each day, because at any moment I can pick up. I have multiple sclerosis, and that is something that they say, quote unquote, you can use marijuana to for you can use marijuana as a medicine. It can be used as a medication for your illness, for the MS. And when they first started talking about it, and they started talking about CBD, um, my mind started to wonder, well, maybe I should try it. Maybe I should give it a try, you know, and maybe it won't hurt me. Your mind will start to play tricks on you, but you have to be careful and know whether or not your mind is playing tricks on you, or that's, for me, I'm a spiritual person, that's the devil. I had a grand seizure in September of last year. And I had tried to take a CBD gummy, and it it wasn't for me because mixed with my other medications, it caused me to have a grand seizure that almost killed me. And I was here at home, and I've never had a seizure before in my life. But I had been sick for about 3 weeks. So I was in bed, and my husband came to see about me, but he said I was lying here and I was looking at TV, and 15 minutes, 15 minutes, I was looking at TV. And then the next thing he knew, he looked down at me, and I was foaming at the mouth, and my eyes was rolling in the back of my head, and I was shaking vigorously, rolling in the bed. And it was something that he had never seen me go through before. And he called paramedics, and they told him what to do. He was scared because this had never happened. And I almost died. I was in a coma for a day and a half. And it was a medication that I was on, they say. But I had also taken that CBD. And so to this day, they don't know whether it was a CBD mixed with one of the medications that I take. But I said all of that to say, all of these, I take at least maybe 8 pills a day for the medical. I take at least 8 pills a day for the different, for MS and for the, I have advanced osteoarthritis. So I take at least 8 pills 3 times a day. And I have to really be careful because you can get addicted if you don't take your medications the right way. And there are so many people out here that they misuse their medications, and they do get addicted. Some people take the medications and they sell them. But addiction is something that is all around us. And so we have to be careful. We just have to be careful. And I'm grateful that I have the right mindset to use mine and take my medicines the right way. I'm grateful that today, just for today, which is something that I learned when I was in Narcotics Anonymous, I don't have to use marijuana anymore. I don't have to smoke pot anymore. I don't choose to. I didn't stop using marijuana because I didn't like smoking. I stopped using pot and stopped smoking pot because I didn't feel like it was something spiritually right for me. So I stopped using. But I just chose to speak on it today because it was something that I thought might be a good topic to share. You know, I'm not perfect now, and I haven't always lived the life that I live today, but I wanted to share about it. So I hope that this has been something that might be fruitful to the ears of the listener. And I'm just thankful that you guys chose to stop by unapologetically me. And I hope that I said something that might trigger the use or the listener. And I hope that you'll come back and listen with me again on next week. And it's been a good few minutes. Thanks for listening. And you all have a good rest of the day. Be blessed, be safe, love on each other, live, laugh, love, and I love you. And I hope you love me too. Take care.
Thank you for joining Unapologetically Me, Charisma Eve. Please like, share, and subscribe, and join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time for another exciting episode wherever you listen to your podcast.